Key was still on my keychain the morning I drove away. I hadn't planned to take it. I didn't plan much of anything that day. I just picked up my purse, walked through the kitchen where the coffee I'd made sat untouched on the counter, and I left. The key was there because it had always been there. The one to my own front door. The house on Clover Mill Road where I raised two children and planted the rose bushes that still bloom every June along the front walk. I didn't look back. I didn't say goodbye. My daughter-in-law had made it very clear, in her own way, that there was no need. Let me start at the beginning, because none of this happened overnight. That's the part that's hardest to explain to people who haven't lived it. How you end up somewhere you never meant to be. Not because of one big terrible thing, but because of 100 small ones, each so slight that you talked yourself out of mentioning it. My name is Vivian. I'm 67 years old. I taught fourth grade for 22 years at an elementary school in Mooresville, North Carolina, and I retired this spring. My husband Gerald got his diagnosis. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. We had 7 months. Gerald was the kind of man who fixed things. Not just leaking faucets and squeaky hinges, though he did those too. He fixed the mood in a room just by walking into it. He had a laugh that sounded like it surprised even him, this sudden burst that made strangers smile without knowing why. When he died, the house on Clover Mill Road went very quiet, and it stayed quiet for a long time. My son Owen was 34 then. He and his wife Melissa lived about 40 minutes away in a new subdivision outside Charlotte, one of those developments where every house looks nearly identical and the trees are still too young to give real shade. They had a daughter, my granddaughter Iris, who was 9 at the time, and Melissa was pregnant with their second. Owen called me every Sunday. That much I'll always give him. It was Melissa who suggested I sell the house. She said it gently, over dinner one evening about 8 months after Gerald passed. She said a house that size was a lot to maintain alone. She said the market was good. She said there were wonderful 55-plus communities nearby, with activities, pools, and people my own age. She said it the way you say something you've been rehearsing, smoothly, with her eyes moving between Owen and me like she was reading from a teleprompter, only she could see. Owen nodded. He said, "Mom, she has a point." I said I would think about it. I did think about it. I did think about it. For almost 2 years I thought about it, and the answer kept coming back the same. That house was mine. Gerald and I had paid it off in 2009. Our names were on the deed together, and when he died, it transferred to me, clean and clear and fully ours. It held 31 years of our life. I knew which floorboards creaked and which windows stuck in August and where the light fell on Sunday mornings in the kitchen. I wasn't ready to give that up for a community pool and people my own age. Then I broke my hip. I slipped on a patch of ice at the end of my driveway in February, just reaching for the mail. It was a bad break. Surgery, then rehab, then 6 weeks at a skilled nursing facility, and when I came out, I was walking again, but not the way I had been. My right side had a hesitation to it now, a carefulness. My doctor said I needed someone around, not a stranger, not a facility, just someone nearby in case. Owen and Melissa offered their guest room. I want to be honest here, because honesty is the only thing that makes this story worth telling. In the beginning, it was fine. Melissa set up the guest room nicely. She bought a shower bench and installed a grab bar in the hall bathroom. She made sure there was food I liked in the refrigerator. Iris came and knocked on my door after school and showed me things on her phone and asked me to help with her reading homework, and those were the best parts of my days. The baby. My grandson Cooper was 14 months old by then, round-faced and easy-tempered, not yet walking steadily, always pulling himself up on furniture and looking proud of himself. I loved him fiercely, the way you love the very young when you've already had your heart broken by loss. When Melissa was in the shower or on a call for work, I would sit on the floor with him and stack blocks and pretend to be amazed every time he knocked them down. I thought I was being helpful. I thought that was the arrangement. I would stay a while, I would heal, and I would be part of things. I was wrong about that last part. It started the way it always starts, small. Melissa began referring to the guest room as your space, not your room. Your space. You're welcome to use the living room, of course, but your space is always there if you need quiet. It sounds like nothing. It is nothing when it's said once. But it was said often and always with that same light, friendly, conclusive tone. The tone that means the conversation is over. I was not included in dinners when they had friends over. The first time it happened, I assumed it was an oversight and I didn't say anything. The second time, I told myself the same thing. The third time, a Friday evening in April, I had spent the afternoon helping Iris finish a school project about the American Southwest. We'd made a little model of the Grand Canyon out of salt dough, and Iris had been delighted. And then at 5:30, Melissa knocked on my door and said, very pleasantly, "We have some friends coming at 7. Nothing fancy. You should feel free to rest." I said, "Oh, would you like me to help with anything?" She smiled. "No, no. You rest." I sat in the guest room and listened to voices and laughter from the other side of the house until almost 10 o'clock. The next morning, Cooper held his arms up to me from his high chair the way babies do when they want to be held, and Melissa lifted him out herself without looking at me and carried him to the other room. I did not say anything. I was still telling myself, "You are a guest. You are recovering. Do not be difficult. Don't be the mother-in-law who causes problems." I had been told in small ways my entire adult life not to take up too much space. The reflex to make yourself smaller runs deep. I didn't understand yet how deep. My daughter Connie lives in Portland, Oregon. We talk every week, sometimes more. She has her own life. A good one, a demanding one, a husband and 2 teenagers and a job she loves, and I had always been careful not to lean too heavily. When she asked how things were going at Owen's, I said, "Fine, getting stronger every day." Connie heard something in my voice that I thought I was hiding. She said, "Mom, what's really going on?" I told her about the dinner parties. I told her about the year space. I told her about the morning with Cooper in the high chair. Connie was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Mom, that's not fine. It's their home," I said. "You own a home," she said. "A paid-off home. You don't have to be there." I knew that. I'd known it all along, the way you know something true that you're not ready to act on yet. The thing that finally moved me wasn't the big moment you'd expect. It wasn't a blow-up or a confrontation. It was a Sunday in May. Owen's company was being recognized by the Charlotte Chamber of Commerce, some business award, a lunch ceremony downtown. The whole family was going. I'd been looking forward to it. I bought a new blouse. I was ready by 10 in the morning. At 10:15, Melissa appeared in the doorway of my room with the same pleasant, finalized expression. "We didn't want to bother you," she said. "It's going to be a long afternoon, and we figured you'd be more comfortable here." "I'd love to come," I said. "Oh." She tilted her head the way you do when a child says something unexpectedly inconvenient. "The thing is, they only confirmed 3 seats at our table. I should have mentioned it earlier. My fault." Owen was already in the car. I could hear it idling in the driveway. I said, "Okay." She said, "There's leftover pasta in the fridge." And they left. I stood in the hallway for a long time after the garage door went down. I had a new blouse on. My husband had been a man who laughed at things that surprised him. My daughter was right, had been right all along. And I had spent 8 months talking myself out of what I already knew. I called a real estate agent that afternoon, not to sell. I wasn't selling. I called to ask about renting out Clover Mill Road because I'd made a decision, sitting alone in that house that did not belong to me, that I was going home. I want to say clearly, I am not a dramatic person. I don't like scenes. I didn't write a letter. I didn't sit Owen and Melissa down and explain my feelings. I didn't need their understanding or their blessing. I started quietly. Over the next 3 weeks, I moved my things. A box here, a bag there. During the hours when Melissa was at work and Iris was at school and Owen was at the office, I hadn't moved a tenant into Clover Mill Road after all. I'd called Connie and she'd said, "Mom, just go home." So I was going home. I arranged for my own follow-up appointments. I reached out to a physical therapist who could come to the house twice a week. I stocked the pantry. I called my neighbor Helen, who is 71 and has lived 2 doors down for 19 years, and she said she would check in on me whenever I wanted. The last morning, I made sure my side of the bathroom was empty. I stripped the bed and folded the sheets. I brought the shower bench back to the hall closet where Melissa had originally stored it. I left a note on the kitchen table. It said, "Thank you for opening your home to me while I healed. I am well enough now to be in mine." Vivian, I drove to Clover Mill Road on a Tuesday in June, with the windows down and the radio on, and the rose bushes blooming exactly the way they always bloomed, red and full and careless about time. I sat in my own kitchen and drank my own coffee from Gerald's mug, the one that says "Best Grandpa" that Iris made him at a pottery class when she was 6, and I did not feel angry. I felt like myself. That sounds like a small thing. It wasn't. Owen called that evening. He was confused more than angry. He said he didn't understand why I hadn't said something if I was unhappy. He said Melissa was upset. He said it had come out of nowhere. I told him it hadn't come from nowhere. I told him as kindly as I could about the dinner parties and the award ceremony and the leftover pasta in the fridge. I told him I had felt for 8 months like a problem that was being managed rather than a person being welcomed. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "She didn't mean it that way, Mom." There it was, that same phrase in his mouth now. She didn't mean it that way. As if intention erased experience. As if meaning well was the same as doing well. I said, "Owen, I know she didn't mean most of it, but I felt it, and I'm your mother. I should have said something sooner, and I'm sorry for that. But I am home now, and I'm staying." He called again 3 days later. Melissa had said some things that surprised him, he said. He wasn't going into detail, he just wanted me to know he heard me. That was enough. It was more than I'd expected, honestly. The summer I came home was a good one. Helen and I started walking in the mornings. Not far, not fast, but every day down to the little park at the end of the street and back. In July, I enrolled in a chair yoga class at the community center on Thursday evenings, and I met a woman there named Shirley who had moved to Mooresville from Ohio after her own retirement and knew absolutely no one, and we have been friends ever since. Iris called me on a Saturday in August, not to be put up to it, not at anyone's suggestion. Just called on her own to tell me about a book she'd read and to ask if I wanted to come watch her soccer game the following weekend. I went. I sat in a camp chair on the sideline in the September sunshine with a bottle of water and a completely uncomplicated feeling in my chest, and I watched my granddaughter run. She scored a goal in the second half and turned around looking for me in the crowd before she'd even finished celebrating. When she found me, she raised both arms. I raised mine back. In October, my attorney called about something I had set in motion before any of this. Before I left Owen's house, before the award ceremony, before the Tuesday morning in June, I had made an appointment with her back in March. One of those quiet weeks when I was still at Owen's and still trying to talk myself out of what I knew. I had asked her to help me update my will. I want to be clear about something. I did not update my will out of anger. I did not do it to punish anyone or to send a message or to win anything. I did it because I had been lying in the guest room on a Tuesday night listening to dinner party sounds through the wall, and I had thought about Gerald and about what he would have wanted and about what I wanted, and I'd gotten very clear. My estate, the house, the savings, the IRAs, the small investment account Gerald had always managed and that I had learned to manage myself, was not enormous, but it was something, enough to matter. In the original will, everything was divided equally between Owen and Connie. In the updated will, the house on Clover Mill Road goes to Connie. So does the larger portion of the financial accounts. Owen receives a portion, a real one, but not equal. Iris and Cooper have education trusts set up in their names, separate and protected, that neither Owen nor Melissa can access or direct. I did not tell Owen this. It is not his business until it becomes his business, and I hope that day is very far from now. I told Connie. She cried a little. She said, "Mom, I don't need." And I said, "I know you don't. That's exactly why. There are things I should have done differently. I know that. I should have spoken up sooner. I should have spoken up sooner. I should have told Owen the first time I was left home from a dinner party that it hurt. I should have trusted that my feelings deserved to be said out loud in my own family. The habit of making yourself small. The reflex that says, don't be difficult, don't be needy, don't be a problem. That's something I spent a long time unlearning, and am still at it. I am also, at 67, more certain than I have ever been about what I will not do. I will not wait in a room I am not welcome in while someone else eats the meal I could have shared. I will not apologize for occupying space that is mine. I will not mistake someone's comfort with me being invisible for genuine peace, and I will not let the people who matter to me wonder if they matter. Iris texted me last week to ask if I would teach her how to make snickerdoodles. She's seen the recipe card in my handwriting that's been stuck to my refrigerator since before she was born. Gerald's mother's recipe. The handwriting is mine, but the recipe is hers. I told Iris to come this Saturday. I told her to come hungry and to plan to stay for dinner. She sent back 5 emojis, which apparently means yes. The rose bushes are done for the season now, but they'll come back in June. They always do. They don't ask permission. They don't apologize for blooming. They just do what they were made to do year after year, regardless of who is or isn't watching. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I think I understand them better now than I used to. I've been sitting with this story for a while now, trying to understand what it actually taught me. Not the version where I'm the wronged party and everything is someone else's fault. I'm past needing that version, the real one. Here's what I keep coming back to. For a long time, I cooperated with my own erasure. Every time Melissa said, "Your space," and I said nothing, I gave her permission to say it again. Every time I sat alone in that guest room while laughter came through the wall and told myself I was being gracious, I was actually teaching everyone in that house that this was acceptable, that I would absorb it, that I didn't require anything different. That's not someone else's fault. That's mine. Melissa didn't wake up one morning and decide to be unkind. I think she genuinely believed she was managing a situation, a mother-in-law in the house, a new baby, a busy life, and that keeping me contained was practical, not cruel. People rarely know they're being cruel when cruelty arrives in the shape of efficiency. And I made it easy for her because I was so determined not to be difficult that I became invisible instead. Those two things, being difficult and being invisible, felt like the only options available to me. It took me a long time to understand there was a third one. Being honest, Owen is my son. I love him without conditions. But love doesn't mean I stop existing to make things easier for him. What I told him on the phone that evening, that I had felt like a problem being managed rather than a mother being welcomed, was the most direct thing I had said to anyone in that house in 8 months. And it cost me something to say it. Not because I was afraid of his reaction, but because I had spent so long swallowing things that saying them out loud felt like breaking a rule I'd made for myself. The rose bushes aren't a metaphor I planned. They're just there, at the end of my driveway, doing what they do. But when I think about what I want the rest of my life to look like, that's the image I keep returning to. Not asking. Not apologizing. Not waiting to see if it's convenient for anyone else that I exist. Just growing. What I know now, at 67, with a healed hip and a standing Thursday evening yoga class and a new friend named Shirley who makes me laugh until my eyes water, is that dignity is not something other people give you. It's something you practice, quietly, in the choices you make when no one is watching. Connie knew that before I did. Iris, at 12 years old, already understands it better than she knows. She turned around in the middle of a soccer field looking for me, not her mother. Me. That matters. Not as a score, not as proof of anything. It just matters because it's true. Because she wanted me to see her, and I was there to see her, and I almost wasn't. I almost let myself be talked out of showing up for my own life by the accumulated weight of 100 small surrenders. I'm done surrendering. Not in anger, just in fact. The snickerdoodles turned out perfectly, by the way. Iris ate four of them standing at the kitchen counter, and I didn't tell her to slow down. And we didn't talk about anything important, and it was one of the best afternoons I've had in years.